We're back with another UCL Fantasy video. This is going to be the best Limitless team for Matchday 9. We've already released the best wildcard team as well as my team selection, so check those videos out as well as the UCL Fantasy playlist and my FPL content, and let's get straight into this. With the goalkeepers, it's actually a bit complicated this week, and remember, if you decide to go for two playing goalkeepers, which you probably should on a Limitless, do not go for Edison and Alisson, despite how good they are, and I think they're the two best goalkeepers this week. You want to have one player that is on the Tuesday, like Edison or Alisson, and then someone on the Wednesday, so you can make that substitution and gain more points potentially. Because if you have Edison and Alisson, you would have to bench one of them, and you might make the wrong choice in the end. Now, it's very difficult for me to choose between Edison and Alisson. I've decided to balance things out a little bit between Manchester City and Liverpool defence, have two from each, and therefore I've gone for Edison, and he's also kept 2 clean sheets during the knockout stages. And then it also is a really tricky question between Manuel Neuer and Edouard Mendy on the second day. Let me know, which goalkeepers would you go for? Some of you might say Alisson and Mendy, for example, so it might be completely different to what you see on screen, but I think I'll definitely go for 2 of those 4 goalkeepers. Just make sure that they play on different days. So Edison and Neuer is fine, Edison and Mendy, Alisson and Neuer, you already know the drill. Any of those goalkeepers are fine. Just make sure that you don't pick 2 players from the same day and you're all good. But you definitely want to target those 4 teams and those 4 goalkeepers. Assuming everyone is fit, I think the backline is a bit simpler. So Trent Alexander-Arnold is an injury doubt, so keep an eye on that situation. If he isn't available, then you could always go for Reece James and a few others like Alphonso Davies, but he's also another one who's recovering from a long withstanding problem. And there's also Reece James himself, so if he's fit, you could go for him instead of Thiago Silva, but I would definitely go for players like João Cancelo, Robertson, etc. Definitely cover Manchester City, Liverpool and Bayern Munich defence. Whether you go for 1, 2 or 3, it's completely up to you. I would probably prioritise Manchester City and Liverpool's defence, and with Bayern Munich you could go for 1, maybe 2 options. And obviously if you look at this entire squad, we've got Manuel Neuer and Süle, so that's already 2 Bayern Munich defensive coverage if needed. In terms of the bench and who's in the starting 11, ignore that because we're on the transfer section, so I'm not able to show you exactly how I would line up. Just make sure those on your bench, just like with the wildcard team, make sure that they're playing on the Wednesday and not on the Tuesday. Otherwise you miss out on their points completely and you just basically nullify the effects of the Limitless and also the substitutions at your disposal. But João Cancelo is the best Manchester City defensive coverage, so I would go for him. But there is Edison, there's also Laporte and a few others, but you definitely would want to go for Cancelo, especially on a Limitless. Budget isn't a problem here. It's a free hit with no budget restrictions, and that is ideal. So Thiago Silva is probably the best Chelsea defender in terms of ball recoveries, but Rudiger, Reece James if he's fit, they're all great options as well. Let me know, what would you change with this back line? I imagine that if Reece James is fit, some of you would go for him instead of Thiago Silva. If Davies is fit enough to start, you'd probably want to go for him instead of Süle. So those are 2 big question marks as well. All of them would be great options, and I don't think you can go wrong with this. Just make sure that you keep an eye on Trent, Reece James and Alphonso Davies and their respective injury problems. We're now onto the midfielders, and I think this is the most straightforward part of this team. Mohamed Salah is a bit of a no-brainer. He's not essential, but he is still one of the best options in UCL Fantasy, and his form hasn't been great since returning from the African Cup of Nations, but he can still easily pick that up, and his stats across the entire campaign are insane, whether it's in the Premier League or the Champions League. We've gone for Sane. He's another one that I think should almost be essential in your Champions League team. He's the highest scoring midfielder and the second highest scoring player overall in UCL Fantasy, which is insane. He's been great. And then Riyad Mahrez. If you were to go for one Manchester City midfielder, there is De Bruyne, Sterling, Mahrez, Foden to choose from, but I'd probably go for Mahrez. I think his Champions League form has been the best of those 4 players, so therefore I would go for him, but he is facing Atletico Madrid, so that could be a really sturdy test for the citizens. And then we've gone for Sadio Mane. I think this is one of the key bits that you can actually really take advantage of on the Limitless. You can go for double Liverpool attack. You don't even need to go for Diaz or Jota, and you can go for Salah and Mane. I think that could be a really good duo for you, and also Kingsley Coman, but you could also pick Gnabry instead. That could be your kind of differential there. Gnabry is arguably more explosive than Coman, but the Frenchman's consistency has been great since Matchday 3, so it's up to you who you decide to go for as your second Bayern Munich midfielder, but any of them would be great. And we're really looking at a triple up in Bayern Munich attack, a double up in Liverpool attack, and then maybe one Manchester City midfielder. But I would definitely go for a midfield like this. Let me know, would you go for Coman or Gnabry, and is there anything else you would change with this team? There's no need to speak about Lewandowski. He should be in your normal team, your wild card, your limitless. So do not worry about him. And he's a great kind of safety pick and everyone's going to have him. And if you go without him, you're basically going to be quite screwed, really. I mean, look at his 24 points he got in Matchday 8. Absolutely unbelievable. A great captaincy shout. And he's just so consistent and so explosive. Karim Benzema as well. It just makes sense. And he's your Real Madrid coverage. He's the only Real Madrid player that I would heavily consider. The rest are open for debate. And you might be able to get away with having none of those players at all. Even Thibaut Courtois. And then the third forward is Diaz. But what I'm going to do actually is show you an alternative. And we already got the limit for Bayern Munich players. Remember, you can only pick 5 players from a certain team in this stage of the competition. We've got Lewandowski, Koeman, Sane, and we've got Süle and Neuer. That's 5 already. So what we're going to do is actually make a few changes and we're going to improve the forward line a little bit more. So if you look in goal, we're going to change Manuel Neuer to Edouard Mendy. And then we're now going to be able to move Diaz, who I've talked about before. He's a good option, but he hasn't really shown his class in the Champions League this campaign. But Müller has, and I think he's a better option, especially with the fixture he has. And it all depends on the lineups. If Diaz starts, you might want to go for him anyway. But I prefer Thomas Müller, and I think this would probably be a better team. And another possibility is actually keeping Neuer and getting rid of one of your Bayern Munich midfielders. We've got Sane and Koeman. There's also Gnabry who you can also bring into the mix, but you might just stick with one. And there's also Süle. You already have Neuer in goal, so potentially you could get away with not having Niklas Süle and going for another defender, for example, Laporte. So there's so many midfielders, defenders, attackers to choose from, even goalkeepers, because apart from the 4 that I kept on mentioning at the beginning of this video, there's also Courtois, who is the highest scoring goalkeeper in the entire game. And even when he doesn't keep a clean sheet, he can rack up those save points, and he has saved penalties in this competition. So let me know what you think of this team, but I'm pretty happy with this, especially the forward line. I think this is the best forward line you can assemble on a limitless and also on your wildcard. And in terms of the captaincy, just like with my wildcard team, as well as my team selection, Salah will be the captain on the first day, and then if he doesn't do as well as you'd hope, then on the second day you can switch the captaincy to Robert Lewandowski. The only thing I would say, once again, to make it very clear, make sure that the players on your bench do not play on the Tuesday. Make sure that they're all playing on the Wednesday, and then you can bring them on for some of those players that blank or don't do too well on the Tuesday. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you are unsure about anything, check out my guides, such as the How to Play UCL Fantasy guide that I made a long time ago, actually. And that should be very useful for you. Another thing I like about the Limitless and Wildcard teams we've assembled is that we have quite a lot of differentials in here. So yeah, Salah, Sane, Lewandowski are owned by quite a lot of the game, but we also have those players that not many people will be looking at. So Sadio Mane, for example, is 2% owned. That is a fantastic differential, but then you look at his points returns this season, pretty poor, so it is a bit of a risky one. Riyad Mahrez even, he's 16%, but when I got him back in match day 7, he was just owned by less than 10% of the game, I believe. We've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's going to be owned by quite a few, but Robertson, 5% ownership. Then you look at Niklas Süle, 6%. A lot of people were cold on him and thought that he wasn't first choice, but I looked at the Bayern Munich team, you know, in the Bundesliga and the other cups, as well as the Champions League, and he tends to be the nailed-on starter. So despite the fact that he's going to Borussia Dortmund in the summer, he has been playing every single game. Joao Cancelo is owned by quite a lot of the game, to be fair. Thiago Silva, 9% ownership, that's pretty good. And if you get Reece James and Alphonso Davies, that's 2 more differentials that you're looking at. And then even the goalkeepers, I think Ederson, yeah, 10%, that's a decent ownership there. Mendy's the highest owned keeper in the game, I believe. Karim Benzema, 17%, that's going to go up even more by the time we approach the deadline. Thomas Müller, though, 4% ownership. And then we look at Kingsley Coman, 4% as well. So a lot of differentials in this team, and the same goes for the wildcard team. So check that out, as well as my team selection. And if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Thank you to everyone who's already subscribed to the channel and supported it. You can click the notification bell so you never miss a single upload. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and on Instagram it's Dylan_RCM for all the latest updates. And you can also talk to me there, send in your teams, for example, and your team IDs. There should be a Rating Your Teams stream for FPL very soon, so check that out, as well as the deadline stream, the reaction stream, and all that good stuff which I've already released. And the same goes for future UCL Fantasy content like the deadline stream next Tuesday. So keep an eye on that. Take care, enjoy the football, good luck with match day 9, and I'll see you next time.